Shalom, shalom. I want to give our honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushua, but Allah Yahweh with the servants. Back at it again with another video through the spirit, right? So we get into the history today, man. The Yoruba people, right? History on the Yoruba people. Who are they, right? So we're gonna get into this thing through the spirit, right? So let's start off. Share my screen. All right. Let's start off with this. Get this new tab. Share my screen. All right. Start out the book of James, chapter 1. James 1:1. Let's get that. Book of James, chapter 1 and verse 1. And it reads, says, James, a servant of God and the Lord Yahushua Mashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. Right. So James off the ripper in the New Testament is letting you know that the Israelites, during the time that James on the scene, right, he's already letting you know that the Israelites are scattered abroad, right? So the Israelites are among many nations, among many people, right? So let's get this. And not only did I want to get that, I want to get this precept too. Right. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 5, verse 15. It says, be not ignorant of anything in a great matter or small. Because some people, right, they focus on, okay, well, you know what I'm saying? It's Israelites is here, but there are Israelites scattered abroad. So you want to kind of dive into this history. You don't just want to just focus on what you see and right in front of you, right? So you don't want to be ignorant of the history of our people in other places, right? Because you might say, well, I'm not in Europe, I'm not in Nigeria, I'm not in Africa at the time, but you still don't want to be ignorant of the matter, right? Because sometimes, especially if you go out and teach the word of God, sometimes you run into people, because you got to think about this, right? Babylon, aka America, is a melting pot. Right, people from many countries around the world come to this place, right? So you never know, somebody could come from the any other regions that the Yoruba people dwell, and they be like, well, hey, I'm Yoruba, and you might like, well, you not an Israelite, but not knowing, they very well could be the Israelites, right? So you want to just be ignorant, just going out there saying anything, right? So when you go and dive into the history and things like that, and see where these people actually derive from or come from, you be like, oh, well, dang, I didn't know that. So then when you do run into somebody that is from Yoruba, you can have a conversation with them, right? Have some dialogue, right? So let's go to we got James 1 and 1 out. Right, let's go to this one too, right? So when Yahweh comes, right, we got to understand that he's going to gather the elect, right, his people, the 1/3, from many parts of the earth, right? It's just not going to be Babylon, right? It's not just America. It's going to be, it's Israelites scattered abroad, right? So he's going to come and gather his people from all over the world, right? So let's get this. Let's get Matthew 24:30 says, then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, and from one end of the earth, from one end of heaven to the other. So when Yahweh shall come, right, the day of the Lord, he's going to come with 1,000 upon 1,000 upon 1,000 angels, right? And they're going to go and they're going to gather elect from around the world, right? Now, of course, they're going to come because Babylon is like the chief place, right? A lot of Israelites dwell in Babylon. But just because a lot of Israelites dwell in Babylon doesn't mean all Israelites dwell in Babylon. You got to understand it, right? Just because a lot of Israelites live here in America, Babylon, doesn't mean all Israelites are here in America. Again, we are scattered around the world, right? Among many nations, right? The scriptures tell you that. So let's go to another precept on that, right? So we understand it, then we kind of know what's going on, right? Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 30. And we're going to start at verse 3. All right. 33 says, well, actually, we can start at verse 1 to really get this context going. It said, and it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations where the Lord thy God have driven thee. So it's saying you gonna remember these things among all the nations, because there's Israelites waking up amongst all the nations. That's not just in Babylon, America, right? South America, you got Israelites in Canada, right? China, different parts, the many different countries, Africa, Australia, they all over. We're scattered abroad, right? So let's keep going. It says, and shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return thee, it's like in return, and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God have scattered thee. Right now, we do know that was a curse. When you go to let's go to this real fast so we can get the curse and see where all this come from. Right, Deuteronomy chapter 28. And let's go to verse 64. Right, verse 64. Right here it says, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even to the other. Right, so it's letting you know that because of our disobedience, because that's why we are scattered around so many parts of the earth, is because the so-called blacks, Hispanics, right, and Native Americans, right, we have disobeyed our God, right, the commandments that he gave to us as a people, as a nation, right, we disobeyed him, and one of the curses that he said will come upon us is that he will scatter us amongst all nations, right? We do have, there are many other curses that apply to us as well, but this is one of those curses that we're getting into for the reason of this class. So we got to understand that the Israelites were scattered abroad for the disobedience, right? Not just America. Okay. So let's go back to Deuteronomy 30, and let's go to verse 4. It says, if any of thine be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven. So if any Israelites is way to the far reaches of the earth, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. So it don't matter where you at in the world. The Lord said he's going to come for his people, right? Understand that, right? So it don't matter. You could be in Alaska, you could be in Timbuktu, you could be in Zimbabwe. It don't matter where you at. The Lord going to gather his people, right? The elect, right? So let's get another precept, right? So Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse number right there, right here. It says this, Ezekiel 20 and verse I want to get that. Now this is what I want to get. It's Ezekiel 11 and 17. It says, so let me share my screen. 11 and 17. It says, therefore say, thus said Lord God, I will even gather you from the people and assemble you out of the countries where you have been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel. So Lord said he's going to gather his people, right, from where they have been scattered, right? So now we get this understanding that the Israelites are not just here in America, right? Cool, okay? So now that we got the understanding, now let's go into the Yoruba people, right? Let's get into this, right? So I got different tabs, right? And I want to kind of start off with this so we can get the demographics of the Yoruba people so we can understand what we're talking about, right? So we're going to get the demographics first, and then we're going to go into a little history, right? So, and these are different sources that I have brought up that. So let's go get to it. It says, let me share my screen. It says the Yoruba people, Iran, Yoruba, are a West African group, right? A West African ethnic group who inhabit parts of Nigeria, Benin, and Togo, which are collectively referred to as Yoruba land. The Yoruba constitute more than 50 million people in Africa, over a million outside the continent, and bear further representation among the African diaspora. The vast majority of the Yoruba are within Nigeria, right? And you have a lot of people, they be like, yeah, I'm from Nigeria, right? And those people, they're not saying every person in Nigeria is like not saying that, but saying there are people that's in Nigeria area or country, right? That could very well be Israelites, right? It says where they make up 20.7% of the country's population, according to ethnologue estimations, right? Making them one of the largest ethnic groups in Africa. Most Yoruba people speak the Yoruba language, which is the Niger Congo language, with the largest number of native or L1 speakers, right? So I want y'all to kind of go down and look at this graph here, right? And then when you see this graph, you see kind of when you get an understanding of like what it is. So you have the Yoruba is not a country. Yoruba is not a country. It's a people, right? It's the actual people, right? So the people, the Yoruba people, right? They dwell in these regions, right? Nigeria, Benin, how you want to pronounce that? Ghana, Togo, United States, Cote d'Ivoire, Niger, Canada, Sierra Leone, right? Ireland, Gambia, Australia, Finland. So they kind of all over, right? They kind of all over this thing, right? And but you see right by the numbers that they mostly dwell in Nigeria, right? So we got this understanding, right? Right. So now let's keep reading on to see. I'm gonna jump down a little bit, right? So it says let's see what I got here. All right, here we go. It says this early 1600 reference implies that the name Yoruba was already in popular demotic use as far back as as at least the 1500s. Regarding the source and duration of this name, guesses are posited by various foreign sociologists of external sources. These include Yerub, son of Canaanite, by Caliph Muhammad Bello of Sokoto, Goruba by T.J. Bowen, or Yoruba Mande, word for Niger River, etc. These guesses suffer lack of support by many locals for being alien. All right, that's not what I'm looking for, but it's kind of giving you a backdrop of, all right, different people that's speaking on the Yoruba people. You know, you have Muhammad Bello, T.J. Bowen, right, and those just to name a few, because there are other people that kind of get into this thing, right? But I want to kind of dig a little deeper, right? So here we go, right here. This is where I'm at. So it says the historical Yoruba developed in situ out of early Mesolithic Volto Niger populations by the first millennium BCE. By the 8th century, a powerful city-state already existed in Ile Ife, one of the earliest in Africa. This city, whose oral traditions linked to figures like Odid, Odud, Oduduwa, and Abatala, would later become the hearts of the Ife Empire, right? And when we start dealing with these names, right, it's going to go into so when you go into Odu, Wawi, and it's because it's going to Oyo, and when you go into Oyo, you also go into the deeper roots of what not the deeper roots of what the Yoruba people practice, which would be Ifa. When you start to go into those things, right, like these names and where they derive from, right? That's why you have the Ife Empire or Oyo Empire, right? It says first empire in Yoruba history. Now keep in mind now the Yoruba people didn't always practice this right here. Right? Didn't always practice it, Ifa and things like that. But over time they created their own traditions and customs. Right? Just like you have men nowadays, right, that have created Muslim and other type of other religions, right? Even Jake, right? They got their own other type of religions or follow out the other type of religions, right? Same thing in Yoruba. They end up having their own man-made religion would be Ifa, right? Something they created, right? So let's keep going. So it says, would later become the heart of the Ifa Empire, the first empire in Yoruba history. The Ifa Empire, flourishing between roughly 1200 and 1420 CE, extended its influence across a significant portion of what is now southwestern Nigeria and eastern Benin and modern day Togo, right? So it's kind of giving you a little backdrop. But to really understand the Yoruba people, you got to go a little bit further than that. Because now I'm just telling you about this empire that they kind of had set up, but it actually got to dig a little further than just the 1200s and the 1420, right? So that's what we're finna go here to this source right here. Hold on, let me get this right quick. All right. So we're gonna start here. Matter of fact, no. I'm gonna go here. We're gonna go here, and it kind of speaks the same language that I'm about to go to, but what I just had up. But we're gonna start right here. So it says Yorubas. Oh, it's like Yorubas, and then we see the ancient Canaanite king. That's when you had that what we seen just previously here. What he said this right here. What we just that? What it said about the Canaanite? Yeah, right there it says Yerub. This includes the Yerub son of Canaanite. So we gonna keep that in mind. Right. So let's go to this. So you kind of see. So this what it is. So it says this. It says Yorubas and the neighboring nationalities located in Nigeria having its oral tradition of an origin extraneous to West Africa. Hugh Clapperton, and that goes to the many different names of people that kind of dug into this history. So now we're going to Hugh Clapperton. In 1820s, reported a work by Sultan Bello, right, the Caliph of the Sokoto Caliphate, where he asserted that the Yorubas were descended from the Canaanite tribe of Palestine. Right now, this is what we got to keep reading. Right, it says around the 1880s, Samuel Johnson, a Yoruba Christian, also wrote a book that made similar claims for Yoruba origins as Sultan Bellows in 1880. Johnson naively sent this work to the Church Missionary Society in England to review the publication. The Church Missionary Society suppressed the manuscript upon realizing the explosive information it contained. The society declared the book lost. It was not until 1923 that Johnson's brother was able to publish an edited copy of this work. Johnson's thesis was that the Yorubas were descended from Lamarudu Nimrod, the first king of Mesopotamia. Right, that's what they got right there. Right. Let's keep reading. Right now it says a Nigerian historian or scholar claimed a Merite origin, Sudan, ancient Ethiopia, Kush, for the Yorubas, right? Emmanuel Ugahula, another respected Nigerian scholar, claimed a Hebrew origin. So this the thing, right? You got. That's why you gotta look when you're reading, right? So this right here is a collective of different historians, right? So we're gonna check out. We're gonna check out what Emmanuel Hulu said, right? He's a respected Nigerian scholar. Claimed a Hebrew origin for the Isan tribe, right? As Isan is a part of the greater Edo nation, which related to the Yoruba nation of Nigeria. So you have different sects when it comes to the Yoruba people, right? There are different sects of Yoruba people, right? So you have here you have the Isan, right, in Edo Nation, right, the Isan and Edo Nation, right. Let's look at Isan Edo Nation. And all these things, maybe just Google, right? No. Heck no. Heck no. I want to get something on that, but right here it says, but it's what it is you have this other site that use the same historians. They're using the same site, so there's another site that's using the same thing that we're just reading about, right? So what we're reading about is using the same exact thing, right? It says the same exact language. It says it damn near copy pasted, right? It says a Nigerian historian and scholar claimed Meroite origin, Sudan, uh, uh, um, ancient Ethiopian Kush for the Yorubas. Emmanuel Ugahulu, another respected Nigerian scholar, claimed a Hebrew origin of the Isan tribe. Isan is part of the greater Edo nation, which is related to the Yoruba nation of Nigeria. So that's what you have on there. Now, just keep reading. Effect traditions claim that the effects originated in Palestine, crossed the Sahara, arrived Nigeria via Sudan. The effects are located in the southeastern corner of Nigeria, right? So same thing. It's the same information that's on this article. You can find that what I was just reading that. So we can continue on that article right here. Right. So it says this: Iberian Jews of Yoruba nationality, the Benai Ephraim, children of Ephraim from Nigeria, live among the Yoruba nationalities. Their oral history tells that the Benai Ephraim people came from Morocco after the Jews were banished from the Iberian Peninsula sometime after 1492. Right? So what you have is people that already knew that they was from the tribe of Ephraim, right? That again, and this is going to I want to show this PDF, right? Because PDF is all right, 15, that's 14. All right. I'm gonna show this PDF and it's gonna kind of show you a map, right, of the migration of the tribe of or where the Yoruba, not the, where the Yoruba people came from, right? So this is there, right? Now what they're saying is some of the Yoruba people after the Assyrian captivity, right? Right, because before they was the Yoruba, before they was even Yoruba, right? Some people, I said some of the Yoruba people, right, that's in the Yoruba now, some of their forefathers, right, they was Israelites, right? Now during the time of the Assyrian captivity, we know that Northern Kingdom did leave. We know that for a fact, right? Pursuant to Second Ezra chapter 13, right? And they were scattered abroad, right? So you had some that went to the Americas, right? You had some scattered. They scattered all over, right? So let's keep that in mind, right? Let's keep that in mind. All right. So I want to show you that map, but let's go back to this. Right. So it says this. It says they speak a dialect that the mixture of Moroccan, Arabic, Yoruba, and Aramaic. They are known by the Yoruba people as the Imo Yokwam, or strange people. Right. Unlike African Israelite communities, other African Israelite communities in Nigeria, the Benai Ephraim have the Torah, portions of which they keep in their sanctuaries. So these people even keep the Torah, right? The Benai, they even got the Torah, right? So keep that in mind. So you have the Isan or the Edo people, right? Then you have the Benai Ephraim, right? Now these are different people that claim to be Yoruba, but again, they're different sects of Yoruba people. So you have the Benai Ephraim, you have the Isan or Edo nation, right? So keep these things in mind, right? So it says the name Lagos, born by the former capital of Nigeria, is a Portuguese Iberian name meaning the lake. Lagos is an island carved up by lagoons, swamps, and lakes. Its traditional Nigerian name is Iko. Thousands of black refugee Jews of Iberia resettled in the environs of environs. Who's that doing that? Right, hold on. Bear with me, got a chart. Right. All right, so here we go. So boom. So it says thousands of black refugees. So you gotta remember, again, we have been scattered around many nations. So you gotta think about this. In 17 AD, when the Romans came and besieged Jerusalem, you had thousands of Israelites, right, Jews, fled to different parts of Africa, right? Understand that. So they fled to different parts of Africa. So now along the way, you had all these different nations already built up. So then, they wasn't welcome where they was, right? And that's why they had to be what? Refugees, right? They just stopped. They just They stopped there and they settled. Some stopped and settled, but some went to these many different places and they called hell, right? They called hell and they had to end up being refugees and they had to flee to other places. For instance, as in the Israelites that fled from Morocco, right? Because they was getting persecuted, right? So they had to get up out of there. So now you have some other ones, right? It says thousands of black refugee Jews of Iberia resettled in the environs of Lagos and Porto Novo, as well as in Cape Verde, Guinea, whatever that name is, and in Sao Tome, either as slaves or outlaws. Again, and we see that, you know what I'm saying, we were slaves according to the scriptures, right? We were put in captivity, right? According to the scriptures. They as you see, they're undergoing the curses, still under the curses, right? Some groups eventually made it deeper inland and became assimilated into one nationality or the other. So what happened when you see this going on, right? Us being, and this is nothing new. When you think about the time of the Maccabean, right? The Maccabeans, right? It says they have assimilated into one nationality or the other. What did our people do during the time of the Grecian when the Grecians was on the scene? We assimilated. You had Greek speaking Jews, right? People practicing in the gymnasium as the Grecians do, if you know what I'm talking about, right? So you had a lot of our people, right, assimilating to different nations, following the ways of different nations, different people, acting as if they was there, right, living like the Grecians. That wasn't that Israel have a habit of doing that sometimes, right? The Lord told us, right, He wanted us to get these other nations away out of the land. Why? Because He didn't want us to do as they did, right? And what Israel ended up doing? They never kicked out all those people out the land. So what they started doing? Assimilating to those other nations. And guess what? By us start assimilating to the other nations, we start serving their gods, right? Doing the manner of wickedness of the other nations. And what did it get us? Slavery, captivity, right? When you read the book of Judges, you see what we was doing. Going into captivity, getting out of captivity. Going to captivity, getting out of captivity, right? And doing what? Following the ways of other nations, right? So now you see this, right, where it's black refugee Jews, right, going deeper inland and being assimilated into other people, right? So when you see this combination of the Yoruba people or the different sects of the Yoruba people, you will see that's going to get to the point because they're going to the other article I have is going to show you a link between the Yoruba and the Israelites, right? Right. Well, of course we're making links now, but we got some more links coming, right? So it says the Benai Ephraim provides a living and irrefutable proof of this barely known history of mass Jewish resettlement in West Africa between 1492 and 1692, a 200-year non-stop return of Jews to Africa. So check that out. So you had resettlements, you know what I'm saying? It had a lot going on, right? This set of Moorish refugees back, and then we already know what it means when we talking about the Moors, right? Same link. It all connects to one another, right? It says the Moorish refugees are not to be confused with more ancient Hebrew and Canaanite tribes that had been living in Nigeria and other African countries for thousands of years. The Black Jew series on Rasta Live Wire deals with the relatively more ancient Hebrews of Africa, right? So, but we already know who the Moors is. We know this, who they was, right? We know these things, right? So again, let's keep reading. It says the Benai Ephraim did not settle with the Yorubas by accident or chance. They recalled that a body of their people had departed Canaan in ancient times and had settled in present day Yoruba areas. Now it says depart Canaan, right? Where did the Israelites dwell? What land did they take? They took the land of the Canaanites. That land they took was the land of Canaan. It was called land of Canaan. They took their land, right? And we made it our land, right? We drove those nations out, most of them out, right? We had little remnants of people left, but we drove them out. We called our land, right? So these people said they remember, right, for ancient times that a body of people did depart from that area, right? Just like their own group, Ben and Ephraim had settled in Iberia, Spain, and Portugal, right? So it says, I think that's it on that, right? I want to kind of leave off on that, right? So let's go to another article, right? Let's go to another article. All right, yeah, right here. Now this right here, this is why I want to get this one right here. Right now, this is a different article. Now it kind of speaks the same language as the prior article, but it's a little bit different, right? So it says Yorubas, sons of Ephraim, right? As stated in my books, regarding the Igbos, right, the father of the Yoruba people, right? Oduwa traveled with Gad's son, Eri, Areli, and Erodi from North Africa, likely Egypt, and settled in what today is known as Nigeria. This would coincide with a Yoruba oral history that they believe to come from outside of West Africa, and thus it would be no surprise they might find Israelite Hebrews and Jews among the Yoruba, right? So you can find And there's also it's a guy, and I got out. He got an interview, but I didn't put an interview because you can barely really understand what the man was saying. But he got a book on talking about the same thing we're talking about, right? And he's doing research. But it says Odua was said to be a descendant of Ham, right? Through Nimrod, also called Lamarudu. This according to Yoruba Christian Samuel Johnson. That's what we heard about. Heard about Samuel Johnson earlier. He was referring to Sultan Bello, right? Caliph of Sokoto was quoted in 1820 by Hugh Clapperton. We talked about that, to have said that the Yoruba people were descendants of Canaanite tribe, and Eso Abeko, a Nigerian historian, claimed the Yorubas to originate from the Sudan, or what is known as Kush, right? However, some say Yoruba is a corruption of the name Jacob, or in Hebrew, Yaquab, right? Others assert that Yoruba is from Yoruba, the people of against Baal, right? It says, but the current Yoruba Jewish population who claim to come from the Israeli tribe of Ephraim was said to have been driven to Yoruba land from Morocco by Muslims. That goes back into the same thing that was talking about the Benai Ephraim people that fled from Morocco, right? So it's kind of it's this article just have a different, it's worded just a little bit different, right? It says eventually mingle with Yoruba people. These black Jews in southern Nigeria are called Imo Yaquam, right? Strange people by the native Africans, but these black Jews call themselves Benai Ephraim, or sons of Ephraim. These Jews who claim that their ancestors came from Morocco is supported by their language, which appears to be a mixture of Maghreb Arabic and local Negro speech, thus Abu, father. Think about it. We say Abba, right? Has become Yaba from the Hebrew word Abba. And mother is from the Hebrew word, from Hebrew Ima. Nevertheless, most of their language is similar to the Yorubas around them. These Yoruba sons of Ephraim observe certain Jewish customs, among which are the great holy days, naming the children on the eighth day, etc. Right? In almost every way, these black Jews are like the Yorubas and are hardly distinguishable from them, except for some outstanding Hebrew observances. And so now what this article was saying, hey man, they basically like the same people, but the only difference is they observe the Hebrew culture, and the rest of the Yoruba don't, right? And what the rest of the Yoruba do observe is Ephah. In retrospect, it'd be like this: so-called black men in America. Most black men in America, they're Christians, and you have that little bit of brothers that be like, yeah, we Israelites. Just because you know a lot of people in the community, most people don't call themselves Israelites. A lot of our people, hell, even when you on the highways and byways, you ask them, hey, what's your nationality? We talk about nationality though. Like, what's your nationality? They're like, I'm Christian. That's not even the nationality. But the point is, what I'm saying is, just like in America, you have the so-called black men or black people that associate themselves with Christianity beliefs, right? They even call us, oh, y'all the Hebrews. That, when you again, if you're a teacher, you know what I'm talking about. You go out to the highways, byways. Our own people approach us and say, "Hey, y'all the Hebrews, y'all the Hebrew Israelites." They don't make the notion saying we the Hebrews. They say y'all the Hebrew Israelites. They make a separation between us and them. Same situation what you got going on here, right? In the with the Yoruba people, right? You got someone saying, you know what I'm saying, and then someone actually following the customs of the Israelites, right? So it's crazy, right? So it says, So it says there is a clan among the Yoruba called the Igu, which is believed to be a corruption of the word Hebrew or Jew, where they are looked down upon by the rest of the Yoruba for displaying Igbo-like character and traits. Now, when you think about also what the Igbo do, the Igbo already told you that they like a lot of the Igbo people, they are let it be known that they Hebrews and they keep the keep the customs, right? What do white people do? They look down on a lot of our people look down on us for professing ourselves to be Israelites, knowing that we Israelites, right? It says for displaying Igbo-like character and traits. The character and traits of the Igbo people be keeping the law, right? One of which is business prowess, and there's even a town in Yoruba land called Iju Igbo. Much of the Igbo people resent and deny this connection with them in Nindi Igbo, right? And what it and the chief thing or the chief precept that screams out to me when I see all these things going on, right? No matter if you have Israelites in America or Israelites in Yoruba land, no matter what it is, this precept right here screams it all out. And thou even thyself shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. It just sounds like a whole bunch of people that have discontinued from their heritage, but end up dating back to the people, right? But you got some saying, well, I'm Israel, I'm Israel, and some saying, no, we not Israel. It's madness. But that's the same thing that's going on here in America. Same situation. You got people saying I'm Israelites. Then you got people saying, "Oh, I don't even associate being it." I'm not even the Israelites themselves saying, "I'm not a black Hebrew Israelite." It's madness, but that's the same. That's how people are, right? Yeah, I mean that. But that's when you go into the scriptures and you understand. It don't matter where you at. An Israelite is an Israelite. You gonna have wicked Israelites. You gonna have righteous Israelites. But wherever you go, you gonna always remember this. It's always gonna be a remnant. It's always gonna be a remnant, right? It's like they don't. That's in our nature. Not say it's in our nature, but it's just how it be. We don't act right. When you think about it, it would be in our nature if you understand what I'm saying. Because regardless of how it is, Lord said 2/3 of Israel gonna be cut off, straight like that. So regardless, 2/3 of people is not gonna be found worthy. So over 66% of the Lord's people is gonna be found unworthy. Just think about that. But anyways, so the point is, it says they shall discontinue from their heritage, right? So I want to bring out that. So let's go to this right here, right? Now let's go to this article, right? Now it says this. It says, let me share my screen. It says according to the present opinion, the Yoruba are of local origin, but this opinion reflects the great influence of post colonialism and on Africa historiography, rather than sober text critical research. It involves a fallacious dismissal of major traditions of provenance, right, suggesting an origin of ancestral Yoruba in the Near East. In fact, before the rise of academic African historiography, in the connection with the independence of African states around 1960, scholars relied more directly on the available traditions of Yoruba origin, and they did some comparative research between Yoruba, ancient Mediterranean, and Israelite cultures. On the basis of this evidence, they suggested that the Yoruba immigrated from far away, either from Phoenicia, the Mediterranean world, Egypt, or Nubia, right? It says the Mediterranean world, right? And when you think about it, right, where is Israel? Israel is not that far from Egypt, right? Israel is not that far from Egypt, right? And then we think about it, we did initially when Moses got us out, we came from Egypt, but the point is they came from that region. They came from that region, so it's not it says suggested that they're immigrated from that region. That will hold facts to the Bible. That's why you gotta go and you gotta pick in the meats and the bones. Right? So you see, this is what the Bible says. Right now we're seeing what the history is saying. Then you gotta take the meat, spit out the bones. Right? Take the meat, spit out the bones. Right? No did it. Right? But anyways, so we see this where they migrated right from this region. It's better to say that region, right? Rather say okay, they well, it was Egypt, but I would say that region. It's safe to say that region because we know Israel is also in that region, right? So it says so man, let's keep reading. It says, and if any of these suppositions could be shown to be true, the present opinion to be ideologically biased, it would mean that oh, I ain't gonna get that, but if I jump down, it start mentioning it says which in the area of the origin was superseded by subsequent sweeping developments such as Hellenization, Christianization, and Islam. See, you got to see what's going on, man. All right, so and we know that our people have been in that Hellenistic Greeks, right? You gotta follow the breadcrumbs, right? So let's go down to page 5. Let's go to page 5. And this is the thing I had brought out earlier, the map that I brought out earlier. So we can go to page 5. Now this is a long article, so y'all can read yourself. But on this article, it talks about the Assyrian time when we was in when the Israel the Northern Kingdom was in captivity by the Assyrians. It talks about that, right? It talks about these things, right? Talking about when the Babylonians came to picture. It covers a lot, but for the sake of time, ain't gonna jump into all that, right? Right. So let's go to. I'm gonna start off right here. Here it says because it starts talking about the Yoruba traditions of migration from the Near East, right? So it says the Yoruba live in a tropical region too far south of the Sahara to have come to the note of medieval Arab geographers, although now considered as a single tribe or people. In pre-colonial times, the Yoruba did not form a political unit, but comprised many separate states in what is now southwestern Nigeria. Yoruba was an alternative name for the largest and most powerful of these states, right? So it's kind of going to that. Let's jump down to page 5 where I was going. It says, what else gonna get? Now, and then it also mentions Bello as well, right? Remember we was talking about Muhammad Bello, right? So what I wanted at page 5. Let's see, bear with me. Find my spot. So this is where it's going to Bello. Let's go into right here. Yeah, right here. That's what I wanted right here. That's all praises. I found it. I found exactly what I'm looking for. It was at the top. It says we're gonna start at 5. We're gonna go into this region right here. You can see my mouse. We're going to this region. It says, though it is quite unlikely that expelled people would adopt the name of their conqueror in context of the expulsion from Mesopotamia, his name could reflect reminiscence of Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian conqueror of Nineveh, mentioned instead of Orion, Jacob, in some Yoruba accounts of creation. The name Yoruba itself, however, more likely to have been derived from the name Jeroboam. And when you go back to this, think about this now. When you go back to the split, right? Who was the king over Northern Kingdom? Jeroboam. Let's go to it. For those for those that don't know this history, right? The kingdom after Solomon died, the kingdom split. Let me get my okay. All right, let's get that. Okay. All right. All right, there we go. Let's see. Let's get this so we see how when the kingdom has split, right? So let's get this. All right. So right here, let's start at 1 Kings 11. We go to verse 29. Right. So this is going to in a summary, Solomon, when he was marrying, when he had those many wives, his mistake was marrying the wives of the heathen, and by him marrying the wives of the heathen, he ended up making shrines and altars to their gods, right? So he ended up going off, right? So the Lord said, you know what? Instead of me taking the kingdom from you, I'm waiting to your son, and I'm gonna take it from him. All right, so it came to pass at that time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him in the way, and he had clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field. And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him and rent it into pieces. Now that 12 is symbolic for Israel, right? The 12 tribes, right? He said to Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces, for thus said the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee, right? But he shall have one tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of the tribes of Israel. So you had Judah and Benjamin and Levi, right? They will like, all right. So when you go into it was initially Judah and Benjamin, but when you go into the history, right? Eventually the Levites they left Northern Kingdom because them niggas going off. So they end up coming down to join Benjamin and Judah, and that what you would have would be the Jews or Southern Kingdom. All right. So or Judah in different scriptures. Right. It refers to Judah as Southern Kingdom and Israel as Northern Kingdom. Right. So it says because that they have forsaken me and have worshipped Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and had not walked in my ways, to do that which was right in my eyes, to keep my statutes and my judgments as did his father. So it wasn't how many wives he had, it wasn't that, but because the ones he did marry was he ended up marrying some heathens, and the heathen women ended up causing this man to go off. He fell victim to it, worshiping their gods, and this what happened. Right? So it says, howbeit, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David, my servant's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and I will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. So that's we have Jeroboam, he being the ruler over Northern Kingdom. right? So when you go into that history, right, and then you see what it is saying right here, Yoruba has derived from the name Jeroboam. Let's now we back at this article, right? Which is page 5 on the article itself with this PDF. On the PDF, it's page 5, but in the book is The Origin of the Yoruba and the Lost Tribes of Israel. Right, that's the name of the book. And this page is page 583. So it says, more likely to have derived from the name Jeroboam, designating the founder of the northern Israelite kingdom. Right, now it goes on to Bello, which I'm not feeling really going to Bello because we already know what Bello thinks, right? But to heck with Bello thinks, because there is more proof, right? And scholarship that we would derive that the people of Yoruba, or at least a group of them, derived from the Israelites, right? So basically Bello, he's saying this thing, but you still have, again, right? People, again, you have the Benai Ephraim, right? You have the Esan and Edo nation that know that mean that derive from Israel. They derive from Israel. So it's like, come on now, you know what I'm saying? So let's keep going, right? So in Bello's argument, he's basically saying that the Yoruba in totality are they derive from Canaan, or the Canaanites, right? But I disagree with that. I disagree with that. And other scholars disagree with that as well, as in Emmanuel Ugahulu, right? They disagree with that, and not just him, but several other scholars, and the ones that was on that last article, right? So let's keep going. Now, that was page 5. I want to get page 8. I want to get page 8 because now they really kind of going on to Nimrod and different things like that. Like I said, I didn't want to read this whole thing. And again, they do touch on they do touch on they do touch on the Assyrian captivity. But I want to bring this out real quick. This is going into page 8 though. It says the dramatic demise of Sango, culminating in the destruction of his palace and the killing of his family, combines the figure of the 9th century Assyrian conqueror with that of the last king of metropolitan Assyria, who committed I ain't gonna read that, but if y'all can see it, you know the S word though, with some members of his family in order to avoid falling to the hands of the Babylonian conquerors of Nineveh. After Sango's unaliving, we find again the epoch hero Ajaka Isaac on the Oyo Israelite throne. So what it's saying is it's making comparison to the story that the Yoruba they have came up with. They're changing it. They're changing the name from like we got like Jacob's name Jacob, right? Instead of saying that, they saying or for instance Isaac. Instead of saying Isaac is Ajaka, or Israelite throne, they say Oyo, right? So they using other words and terms, right? So all right. I'll read this part to get another example. It says, as for Oranion or Oramion, the name seems to stand for Jacob's son of Isaac, also called Israel, right? So they have, like, instead of the names that they have, these are names that they chose, right? In their story, right? In their figures, in their story figures, this is who they have, right? So so that's what I want to get right there. And I'm gonna keep reading. It says, in whose second name, Ajuwan, it is tempting to see a slightly changed form in the name Jehu from him in the tradition shift of two kings, right? So they have a very similar story, right? Very similar story, right? So let's go down. It says now we're going into now what they're digging into now is they're digging into Oyo tradition and they're comparing the Oyo tradition to the Bible. The different characters they have in Oyo tradition, they're compared to events and people in the Bible, right? And showing you how they're similar, how they relate, right? So it says the next thing mentioned by Oyo tradition is Olusa, who on account of his name appears to correspond to the Israelite king Joash. So it's like they're like, again, that's why I say you gotta go to see Bello's argument is so like, come on, man, you gonna that's all you got right now. But he did have a extensive thing that he kind of wrote. I didn't go all into his Bello's argument, but when you see like the comparison of the traditions, right? You got again the Benite Ephraim that still have the Torah, right? Then you got again, then we're gonna get into how the it says that there's a direct line. I ain't gonna jump to this point. Let's keep reading. It says though the first sight both names seem to have little in common, a simple transformation seems to have taken place. The theophoric part of the name Yahweh was replaced by the neutral El or Olu theophoric element, while the second part of the name was only slightly changed as given. Right, both kings are remembered for their peaceful and beneficial reign. The last mentioned king of pre-exile Israel is Olu Bogi, who by his name, a second part of the name being a dialectical variant of Jeroboam, or says maybe the greats, may the people be great, seems to be equivalent to Jeroboam too, right? So this is what this is what they saying now, right? We getting into this thing. So we seeing the comparatives of we're seeing the comparatives of the story, the Oyo history, and the history of the Israelites with them set within itself, right? So now I'm gonna jump down. So it says the second section, it says of the corpus of Oyo tradition deals with the exile of the Israelites in the Igbo-Boho Hebrew region, which we got into in the other article. What we was talking about, there's a section, right, of Igbo Oho preceding and succeeding sections by the supposed burial of its kings in the town of Igbo Oho, situated 55 kilometers west of Oyo, right? So it's going into that people. It says within a dynastic tradition of Oyo, it apparently corresponds to the local projection of the Assyrian exile of Israelites in the Hebrew region in eastern Syria, subsequently to the Assyrian conquest of Samaria in 722 BC. I mean, here it is. Apart from the spatial differentiation with regard to the residents of the people in Oyo and in Igbo, the semi-divine nature of the early kings are as opposed to the human nature of all the other kings introduces a distinction between two categories of kings who can be shown to have been first Israelites with some intermediate Assyrians, right? So we're seeing that. Now, guess what it mentions here? Right? It says the first king of the Igbo Oho section of Oyo tradition is Opharon, who has been compared with Sango, I'm gonna jump down to the point, right? Because this is gonna be the point. It says, hence the great Assyrian epoch ruler, his second name was apparently Omoluju, Yoruba son of Loju, which can be seen as being derived from Ululaju. I mean, these names is crazy, but I'm trying my best. The birth name or nickname of Salamaster, right? So we go to Salamaster. What happened? What happened with Salamaster? What do we see his name at? Right? You read about it in the scriptures, but you read about it here too. Let's go to it. I just want to hold on, let me go. All right, here we go. All right, so 13. Where's his name mentioned? All right, let's go to this. All right, so you can see how very quickly how these things correlate with the Bible. Second Esdras 13 and 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Osir the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive. He carried them over the waters, and so they came to another land. His name is mentioned right here in this, but it's not mentioned Salmanassar. It's Shalmaneser, right? Shalmaneser, right? So you see it, and you see Assyrian king. So we're seeing the comparative, right, of again the Oyo tradition in the Bible, right, and we're seeing how they correlate, right. So let's keep going. Right now, here they have a graph of the different names of people dealing with the you know what I'm saying, with the Oyo tradition and the Israelite king. So you have these different names compared to the names in the Bible, right? And it's a good article, and it's and well, it's a good article, Anthropos, but it derived from the book that I was talking about. But let me not skip because I was getting some. I got some points. Let me make sure I'm lined up. Okay, bear with me. All right. So let me see the third section. Oh yeah. Nah, I mean I'm headed on my way because I'm about to hit the page 14. But on my way to page 14, I'm just looking at, because like I said, I read through it briefly. I read through it because it's some stuff, man. But I'm gonna read this right quick. Nah, that's cool. That's cool. I ain't gonna worry about that. All right, so I'm just go ahead and go to 14. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff in this thing, man. But it says we're gonna start at verse 13, right? It says, contrary to other African people, such as also the neighboring Igbo and southwestern Nigeria, the Yoruba never claimed an Israelite identity because they did it, just like Israelites now, right? Although several authors pointed out the existence of Israelite customs among the Yoruba, they saw them as a side effects of Israelite influences. So, meaning that they had the Yoruba. Oh, man, hold on. It's Satan right here though. Satan really is bothering me right now. My stomach. Yeah, I'm at the I'm sorry. Apologies. Satan, man, got some stomach, but had to cut that short for on the Lord willing I can finish off on that, but Lord willing that was edifying through the spirit. And again, I had to cut this short because I had an emergency. So I'm gonna have to cut this short. But what I could do this is a ending part to this to the article, or I might just add more information to it. But I was for anybody that want to know what I was reading from, it was Anthropos PDF, Lost Tribes of Israel on the Yoruba Lost Tribes of Israel. And if y'all want to check that out, but I gotta cut this short, Salakia. But Lord, when that was edifying, again, I got some guys, it's just a little bit more, and I could probably add some more information. Got some more information through the spirit, but that's what I have for tonight. Lord, when that was edifying, I want to give our honor and glory to Yahweh Shalom. Shalom, shalom.